There is a profound truth that most men never learn, and those who do discover it only after years of suffering, of reaching out desperately into the void, of placing their worth in the hands of others who were never meant to hold it. This truth, it's simple, yet it cuts through the noise of our desperate age like a blade through silk. Rejection is not your enemy. Rejection is your teacher, your forge, your path to becoming the man you were always meant to be. The Stoic understands this with a clarity that pierces through the fog of modern weakness. And in that understanding, he finds not bitterness, but power. You have been taught to fear rejection, to see it as evidence of your inadequacy, as proof that you are somehow less than what you should be. Society has whispered lies into your ear since childhood, telling you that your value depends on whether someone chooses you, whether someone validates your existence with their approval, their affection, their love. But the ancient wisdom knows better. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his tent on the Germanic frontier, understood that the opinion of others is like smoke, visible for a moment, then gone, having no substance, no power to change what you truly are. When you beg for love, when you plead for acceptance, when you diminish yourself in the hope that someone might find you worthy, you are not showing love, you are showing fear. And fear, disguised as devotion, repels what you most desire to attract. The man who begs reveals that he has not yet learned the most fundamental lesson of masculine strength, that your worth is not determined by external validation, but by the immutable core of who you choose to be when no one is watching, when no one is applauding, when you stand alone with your principles and your integrity. The Stoic never begs because he understands that begging is an admission that you believe your value comes from outside yourself. It is a declaration that you are incomplete without the approval of another, and incompleteness is not attractive. It is burdensome. The woman who sees a man beg for her love does not see devotion. She sees a man who has not learned to value himself, and if he cannot value himself, why should she? There is a dignity in silence that speaks louder than 1,000 desperate words. When rejection comes, and it will come, for it comes to all who dare to love, who dare to reach beyond themselves, the Stoic receives it like a mountain receives the storm. He does not bend, does not break, does not chase after what has turned away from him. He stands in his truth, in his worth, in the knowledge that what is meant for him will find him, and what is not meant for him was never his to begin with. This is not coldness, this is wisdom, it's not indifference. This is self-respect so profound that it requires no external confirmation. The beauty of walking away with grace is that it transforms defeat into victory, rejection into respect. When you can accept no for an answer without argument, without pleading, without the desperate scramble to change someone's mind, you demonstrate a strength that is increasingly rare in this world. You show that you understand the fundamental nature of choice, that it must be freely given to have any value. That love extracted through pressure or manipulation is not love at all, but merely compliance born of pity or exhaustion. The man who can walk away gracefully is the man who understands his own worth so deeply that he does not need others to confirm it. And here lies one of the great paradoxes of human attraction. The man who needs nothing is the man everyone wants to be around. Detachment, true detachment, born not of indifference but of self-sufficiency, creates a magnetic field that draws people toward you. When you stop chasing, when you stop needing, when you become complete within yourself, you become irresistible. Not because you are trying to be, but because you have discovered something that most people spend their entire lives searching for: inner peace, self-knowledge, unshakable confidence that does not depend on external circumstances. The rejected man who learns this lesson often finds that rejection was not an ending, but a beginning, the beginning of his transformation into someone far more powerful than he ever imagined he could be. Seneca wrote that every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, and nowhere is this more true than in the realm of love and loss. When someone rejects you, they are not just saying no to a relationship, they are saying yes to your evolution. They are forcing you to confront the question that every man must eventually face. Who are you when stripped of external validation? Who are you when you cannot rely on someone else's approval to feel worthy? Who are you when you stand alone, and the only opinion that matters is your own? These are not comfortable questions, but they are necessary ones. And the man who answers them honestly discovers a strength he never knew he possessed. The concept of amore fati, loving your fate, embracing what is rather than mourning what is not, becomes your greatest ally in these moments of apparent defeat. The Stoic does not merely accept rejection. He embraces it as a teacher, as a guide, as a necessary part of his journey toward becoming the fullest expression of himself. He understands that every rejection is a redirection, pointing him away from what would have diminished him and toward what will elevate him. This is not the bitter acceptance of the defeated, but the profound gratitude of the wise man who recognizes that what seems like loss is often salvation in disguise. When you love your fate, you stop fighting against the current of life and learn to navigate it with skill and wisdom. You begin to see that the woman who rejected may have saved you from a relationship that would have been built on your neediness rather than your strength, on your desperation rather than your choice, on your fear rather than your love. You begin to understand that every no that you receive with dignity makes you more attractive to the right yes when it comes. You begin to realize that rejection is not a judgment on your worth, but an invitation to discover it more deeply. The difference between love and neediness is the difference between giving and taking, between offering and demanding, between choosing and requiring. Love flows from abundance. Neediness flows from scarcity. Love says, I choose you because of who you are and what we could create together. Neediness says, I need you because I am incomplete without you. Love is generous. Neediness is hungry. Love is patient. Neediness is urgent. Love can wait. Neediness cannot. When you confuse the two, when you think that the intensity of your need somehow makes your feelings more valid, is more worthy of reciprocation, you are making a fundamental error that will sabotage not only your relationships, but your own growth as a man. The Stoic loves from a position of strength, not weakness. He offers his heart as a gift, not as a debt to be collected. He understands that true love cannot be forced, cannot be negotiated, cannot be earned through self-diminishment or desperate displays of devotion. True love recognizes itself in another and chooses to intertwine to complete beings, not to complete to incomplete ones. When you approach love from neediness, you are asking someone else to do the work that only you can do, the work of making yourself whole. Self-worth, genuine self-worth that cannot be shaken by external circumstances, is built in the quiet moments when you are alone with yourself and like what you find there. It is constructed in the discipline of daily choices, in the commitment to principles that do not waver based on whether someone is watching, in the cultivation of character that exists independent of applause or approval. The man who builds his worth on the opinions of others builds his house on sand, and when the storms of life come, and they will come, his foundation crumbles. But the man who builds his worth on his own integrity, his own growth, his own commitment to becoming the best version of himself, builds on bedrock that cannot be moved by the shifting moods and preferences of others. Solitude becomes not a punishment, but a privilege when you learn to enjoy your own company, when you discover that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. In the silence of your own space, away from the noise and demands of others, you hear the voice of your authentic self. You discover what you truly value, what you truly want, what you are truly willing to stand for. You learn to appreciate the man you are becoming rather than mourning the man you think others want you to be. This is where real confidence is born, not in the approval of others, but in the approval of your own conscience, your own standards, your own vision of who you are meant to be. The rejected man who retreats into this solitude not as an escape, but as a journey inward, often emerges transformed. He returns to the world, not seeking validation, but offering value. He approaches relationships not as a beggar seeking alms, but as a king offering partnership to an equal. He no longer sees rejection as a verdict on his worth, but as information about compatibility. He stops taking things personally because he knows that most of what people do has nothing to do with him and everything to do with their own fears, their own wounds, their own journey toward wholeness. There is a particular kind of power that comes to the man who no longer fears rejection, because he has learned to reject himself from situations and relationships that do not serve his highest good. He becomes selective not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. He realizes that his time, his energy, his love are precious resources that should be invested wisely, not scattered desperately in hope of any return. He learns to value quality over quantity, depth over breadth, genuine connection over superficial validation. This transformation is visible to others in ways both subtle and profound. The desperate energy of neediness is replaced by the calm confidence of self-possession. The urgent seeking of approval is replaced by the quiet offering of value. The fear of being alone is replaced by the comfort of being complete. Women sense this transformation instinctively. They are drawn not to what you want from them, but to what you offer, not to your need for them, but to your choice of them, not to your fear of rejection, but to your acceptance of whatever comes. The man who has learned these lessons becomes, paradoxically, the man who is least often rejected because he is the man who most gracefully accepts rejection when it comes. His lack of attachment to outcome makes him more attractive, not less. His willingness to walk away makes others more likely to choose to stay. His comfort with solitude makes others want to join him in his contentment. His self-sufficiency makes him more appealing to those who are themselves on the journey toward wholeness. But even if none of this happens, even if learning these lessons does not make you more attractive to others, it makes you more attractive to yourself, and that is the only attraction that you can control, the only validation that lasts, the only approval that matters in the end. When you can look in the mirror and see a man of principle, a man of strength, a man who handles both acceptance and rejection with equal grace, you have achieved something that no external relationship can give you, and no external rejection can take away. The Stoic path is not an easy one, but it is a powerful one. It asks you to give up the comfortable illusions of neediness for the sometimes harsh truths of self-reliance. It asks you to stop seeking your worth in the eyes of others and start building it in the depths of your own character. It asks you to love your fate, even when your fate includes rejection, loss, and solitude. But in return, it offers you something that no amount of external validation can provide: unshakable inner strength, genuine confidence, and the kind of peace that comes from knowing that your worth is not negotiable because you have chosen to make it so. The rejected man stands at a crossroads. Down one path lies the familiar territory of self-pity, of anger, of bitter rumination on what went wrong, what he could have done differently, how he might have been more acceptable. This path leads nowhere but deeper into the prison of external validation. Every relationship becomes a desperate attempt to prove worth rather than share joy. Down the other path lies the unknown territory of self-discovery, of growth, of the sometimes lonely but ultimately liberating journey toward becoming the man you are meant to be. The Stoic chooses the second path not because it is easier, but because it leads to freedom. He understands that every rejection is an invitation to this choice. Every loss an opportunity to discover what cannot be lost. Every moment of solitude a chance to build the kind of relationship with himself that makes all other relationships better, deeper, more authentic. He knows that the man who can handle rejection with grace is the man who can handle anything life offers with grace. And grace, true grace under pressure, is the hallmark of masculine strength. When you stop begging for love, you start attracting it. When you stop fearing rejection, you start choosing more wisely. When you stop seeking your worth in others, you start finding it in yourself. When you stop being desperate to be chosen, you start being worthy of choice. This is the paradox and the power of the Stoic approach to love and loss. By needing nothing, you become everything. By accepting rejection, you transcend it. By walking away with dignity, you become someone worth following. The ancient wisdom speaks across millennia to remind you of this truth. You are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to become because of what happens to you. Rejection is not a verdict on your value. It is a test of your character. Loss is not evidence of your inadequacy. It is an opportunity for your growth. Solitude is not a punishment for being unlovable. It is a gift that allows you to discover just how lovable you truly are when you learn to love yourself first. In the end, Stoic never begs for love because he has learned the most important lesson of all. The love that must be begged for is not worth having, and the man who learns to love himself completely becomes a man that others cannot help but love in return. This is your power. This is your strength. It's your path to becoming unshakable in a world that will always try to shake you. Choose it. Walk it. Become it. The man you are meant to be is waiting on the other side of your willingness to face rejection with courage and emerge from it with your dignity intact and your strength multiplied.